When can we expect to see the next wave of free agents and trades? And will the Giants be a part of those transactions? Let's talk about it right here on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Alan Stiles. Welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, thanks to you, the #1 sports podcast network. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercats games. Today, we are discussing when the next move will happen, the next wave of moves will happen. The Giants signing another kind of bounce back pitcher, and the timeline on Tony Vitello. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your bets on the NFL all season long. I hope everybody had a great holiday. I know we spoke the day after Christmas, and I should remember because I ticked off a lot of people as we had a very high-level conversation about the future of Logan Webb, and that's okay. I knew I was going to tick some people off, even though I caveated it time and time again saying I don't want to move Logan Webb. A lot of people just didn't want to hear it, and I get it. The Giants shouldn't necessarily do that. They're not going to do it this season, but you know, when the Giants don't make moves, this is what happens, man. We got to talk about some crazy stuff. So with that being said, when can we expect some moves to be made by the Giants? And just in general, this is from our friends at Around the Foghorn. When could free agency open up for the Giants and the rest of baseball? There are still a lot of good names in free agency, which has many wondering when some of those names will start coming off the board. For the San Francisco Giants and the rest of baseball, that could be after January 2nd. Now, why is that? When Tatsuya Imai's posting window expires, that is January 2nd, the Cebu Lions of the NPB posted Imai in the middle of November, beginning his 45-day window. More often than not, a player signs well before that expiration of the posting window. That also depends on the player and his market. Imai is represented by Scott Boras, of course, who often uses every lever to his advantage to net as big of a payday as possible for his clients. He is quite good in that regard, but that often holds up free agency. That has led players remaining in free agency for longer than expected, but it works. While most free agents do not have a defined deadline for when they need to sign, that is not the case for Imai. His posting window expires in less than a week, and deadlines to make that move tend to inspire activity in baseball. It is possible that Imai's market has not developed as expected, as many teams wrestle with valuing their star MPB pitcher. This could lead to the Giants closely monitoring his market until the case is resolved. So there's other names out there, of course. Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker. So that maybe could be the domino that everybody is waiting for. And after that domino falls, other things may come to be. I do find that interesting, though. It's hard for me to believe that Framber Valdez's market has anything to do with Imai's when Framber Valdez is a proven star in this league, and Ranger Suarez, pretty much the same idea. And when it comes to the position players, yeah, I don't really know what that would have to do with it either. I mean, of course, if some of these teams are looking to double up and add both, that could be a part of this. But, you know, as I've kind of mentioned before, what's going to happen is I do think Imai's market will drop a little bit and probably is in the process of dropping. But then if everybody gets in on it once it drops, then it could go back up. I think this is a great situation for the Giants and anybody with some level of interest in Imai, with the Yankees coming out and saying that it's probably not going to happen, and the Giants coming out and saying it's not going to happen. This is how you take the power away from Scott Boras. I mean, and it's really hard to do. And of course, you're never going to fully do it. But when you sit there and you say, hey, we're just not paying that, so deal with it. Right. I think Scott Boras is the type that would say, hey, let's go with the higher AAV on a 2-year deal rather than locking you into anything that looks like a bargain. Because number two, he wants you to be able to get out of that deal as soon as possible so you can make more money and so he can make more money on a bigger deal, assuming that you ball out and do your thing in that bigger deal. This could be where it's headed. I mean, the fact that nothing has happened means that somebody's waiting on something. And January 2nd is literally this week. Okay, it's literally this week. So I think something is going to happen. I think we won't have to talk about hypotheticals of trading Logan Webb and others that are just going to tick off my viewers and listeners. I don't think we'll have to do that. I think something is going to happen because there's no way Imai just doesn't get picked up. Right. So right now, it might not be to the Giants, but right now, I think that price tag has probably dropped a little bit. Hey, we're just not going to spend that type of money. And now it becomes, all right, who's going to go a little bit higher than where the current bid is at? And will Scott Boras, I mean, knowing him, he's going to take it up to the last minute to say, hey, all right, now we're going to make this deal. Now we're going to make this move right until the last second. The clock strikes midnight for Cinderella Imai. And, you know, if there are player options involved, I know the Giants, that's why they don't love doing business with Scott Boras, because he's obsessed over that. I mean, he loves to keep the power with the player, and I get that. That just might be a situation that changes it for the Giants. Hey, if you're getting a pitcher that was initially valuated at this crazy 5-6 year deal, and you can get him for 2 with the player option for 3, even though, you know, he might leave you high and dry, you're both kind of getting what you want because you got a shorter deal. You're getting a high level pitcher that's a ground ball pitcher that is, in theory, somebody that's going to match well with the rest of your rotation. And you both have that out. I mean, at most, it would be 3 years. So even though the Giants don't typically like it, it actually kind of works out for them because they don't want to sign somebody to 5 years. Now, if it was a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option, probably not, because I think that's probably too long for the Giants. But 2 to 3 or something like that feels like an opportunity for the Giants to slide in there, and some other teams. I mean, I think the Yankees, the reason that you come out and you say you're not interested is just for what's exactly happening, and they could very well be back interested. We're not interested at that price point, right? All these teams are interested in Imai. They're just saying, we don't have him valued there, right? That's just too much of a gamble. If Framber hasn't even gotten a deal yet, Ranger Suarez hasn't even gotten a deal yet, and these guys have been successful in Major League Baseball. So it's not terribly surprising. I just don't know, and just moving forward, when you have these valuations, what went left with how people were evaluating the KBO and these other leagues, why there was a thought process that these valuations were going to be so high, and how it was just so far off with reality and what these teams were willing to pay. I don't know what that shift was. You see Murakami, taking a 2-year deal. So these are guys that were supposed to get big money, and somewhere along the line, somebody said, yeah, I'm just not going to do it. And other people said, yeah, we're not going to do it either. So, you know, everybody can kind of get together, even, unofficially, and say, you don't pay it and I don't pay it, then we don't have to pay it. Then we can bid at a more realistic price point. Maybe that was all said without it actually being said. So that's when we can start to see some stuff. So the date is January 2nd. I don't know that everything is being held up because of Imai, but it is possible a lot of this stuff is connected, because if Imai goes cheaper, maybe Framber Valdez goes cheaper, even though Framber has done stuff in this league. It's if everybody's saying, we're just not giving anybody long contracts like that, at least not this offseason, with the maybe around the corner after next season, maybe it kind of starts it. Hey, sorry, you're not getting that, Framber. Here's a 3-year deal, high AAV, take it or leave it. Ranger Suarez, high AAV, take it or leave it. You guys are in your 30s. This is where things are headed. Maybe for pitchers, maybe the Giants are right there. I don't want to say ahead of the curve, but maybe they knew where this curve was trending, and they decided they don't want to buck that trend, right? There's no need to. At least they don't feel like there's a need to. In part because they went out and got another pitcher. We will tell you who that is and what his background is when we return. More Locked On Giants coming up. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sports book partner of the NBA. Okay, next segment with you, and the Giants sign another, stop me if you heard this before, bounce back pitcher. This one, and I really worked on this, so I'm trying here. Nick Margevicius. Nick Margevicius is, I think, how you pronounce it. Okay, Nick Margevicius. So that's who the Giants sign. He has kind of been around the block a little bit. This is from MLB Trade Rumors. The Giants have signed left-hander Nick Margevicius to a minor league contract. According to Alex Pavlovich of NBC Sports Bay Area, he will receive $825K if he reaches the majors. Margevicius will receive an invitation to San Francisco's big league spring training camp. It has been over 4 years since Margevicius's last MLB game, as the Southpaw made 5 appearances for the 2021 Mariners before his season was cut short by thoracic outlet syndrome. Margevicius spent the 2022 and 2023 seasons in the minors, pitching in Seattle and Atlanta in their farm systems, then spent 2024 abroad pitching for the Chinese Professional Baseball League. Returning to North America last year, Margevicius began the 2025 campaign in the Mexican League before catching on with the Tigers on a minor league contract. This return to AAA ball went pretty well, as Margevicius posted a 3.89 ERA, 22% strikeout rate, 5.7% walkout rate over 74 innings with AAA Toledo. It was a big step from the ugly numbers the left-hander posted in his last AAA stint in 2022-2023, and to some extent, a continuation of the strong work Margevicius delivered with the Hawks and in Mexico. While still not a hard thrower, Margevicius upped his fastball velocity to 91.9 miles per hour, and he has incorporated a cutter into his repertoire. Margevicius' work didn't earn him a look on Detroit's MLB roster, but the Giants were apparently intrigued enough to issue the Southpaw a non-roster invite. Margevicius could be a spot starter or perhaps just a pure AAA depth option, or the Giants could conceivably use him for more of a long reliever if his contract gets selected. So that's pretty much it. So another name to throw out there. And, you know, this is a guy, I'm not going to pretend like anybody should know who he is. He's 29 years old. Okay, he's 29 years old. He was drafted by the Padres in 2017 in the 7th round out of Rider University. For his career, he's 4-11 with a 6.12 ERA. He has 22 games started. He's pitched in 32 games, 110 in a third inning with 90 strikeouts. So, you know, he's kind of a guy that doesn't throw hard. So he's going to mix it up on you, keep you off balance, right? A lefty thumber. That's kind of what we used to call them back in the day. That seems to be what he is. And it's crazy looking up. I was trying to nail his last name, and it's crazy looking up the stats and the highlights from what he's done in the majors, and he's facing guys who, it's always funny in baseball how guys just disappear. Like, I don't know what happened to Michael Brantley, but one day Michael Brantley was here, one day Michael Brantley was gone, and I'm looking up the highlights and he's striking out Michael Brantley. Just some name drops that we haven't seen in a couple seasons or in a couple years. So yeah, another thing, and I already know what the comments are going to say, another dumpster dive move, and I can't even really disagree with you. The Giants, we know what they're trying to do. And by the way, since I mentioned that timeline and realizing that January 2nd is just around the corner, I got to keep refreshing here just in case something happens. I got to keep refreshing, but I'm sure I would have heard something if the Giants made a move. Yeah, that's just kind of what it is. But as far as Margevicius is concerned, we've seen these moves before. the Giants are basically thinking if we get enough guys that have, some, I guess, history in Major League Baseball and some experience in Major League Baseball, one of these dudes is bound to work. One of these dudes is bound to help us in some capacity, maybe not as a starter, maybe as a long reliever, maybe a spot guy. Who knows? But we're just going to get arms in the building and see what happens, because I think the Giants just felt like they got pretty thin, or they were pretty thin, which is funny because there were also reports that the Giants felt like their pitching was in a good spot. So it is a bit confusing. I guess if they felt like it wasn't in a good spot, they would be paying more money for it, but they've also just told us they don't want to spend that type of money. So he gets added to the crew, and I think it's a good opportunity, of course, for him as far as what the Giants are going to be able to accomplish, or where or when we could see him. I have no clue. These just are the types of guys that we've heard time and time again. And when you hear the Giants sign a pitcher, at this point, I'm going to be surprised if they did anything in 2025 or anything of note in 2025. That's just where the Giants are at right now. That's their thought process. And it kind of leads into our next segment as we talk about Tony Vitello and his timeline, because I think it gets to a point where you just ask, is he being set up for success? Right? We've done the comparisons with the Steve Kerrs and others. Those are teams, and I know basketball is different, but those are teams that were, one piece away, something like that. I don't know if the Giants are one piece away. I think they're probably a couple pieces away, and they keep signaling that they're not going to try to get that piece this year. So, yeah, it turns into, what is the plan and what are you trying to accomplish here in this first season for Tony Vitello? But as far as Nick Margevicius is concerned, yeah, good opportunity for him. We'll see what happens. And, it's another name. It's another name to throw in the pile of guys that are going to get opportunities, and somebody's going to pop. And here's the thing. One will. I don't know who it's going to be. I think Adrian Hauser would be the betting favorite, just because he's got the most recent experience. But whether it's him, it could be Foley, it could be one of the young guys. They're going to find at least 2 or 3 guys from this dumpster diving, for lack of a better term, that are going to be serviceable. They are. I don't know to what level, but you're going to throw them out there. But here's my question. Would you call Kai Tang serviceable last season? I mean, he threw games, right? Or he threw in games, I should say. He was a starter, but is he a starter in the league? We say the same thing when it comes to basketball, right? When a team has a bunch of injuries and a G League guy gets a bunch of time, that doesn't necessarily mean he's an NBA player. He got to play in the NBA, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's an NBA player. So when you look at some of these guys are going to get major league rotation minutes, or major league rotation innings, or starter innings, whatever it is. Does that mean that they're a starter or a long reliever or a closer? I don't know. The numbers are going to tell us that. That's exactly what we're waiting to see. So on the other side, let's discuss Tony Vitello and that timeline and how long we think the Giants will give him. We'll look back at the past, some of the other managers, what kind of leashes they got, and how that could compare to what Tony Vitello is about to take on. One more segment with you. Locked on Giants coming up. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Giants with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. If you're a true diehard Giants fan, the Everydayer All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com to join the Everydayer Club and unlock all access. You can also find the link in the show notes. Last segment with you. And again, one of those random weeks, right, where you got a couple days off, you get New Year's off. We're heading into we're heading into the new year, so I'm excited. We're going to talk about the Giants, what their New Year's resolutions should be heading into the 2026 season. But right now, the timeline for Tony Vitello is what I want to talk about, because I'm not necessarily sure what the Giants are going to do or what they're going to give him. This is how it has really broken down. Gabe Kapler got 4 years, and he made the playoffs once, and they broke a franchise record in wins, and he got 4 years. Bob Melvin got 2 years. They never made the playoffs. Now, Gabe Kapler, they did lose. They got to, bypass the first round because they had won their division, but then they lost to the Dodgers in the first round possible. And what was it? The NLDS, and that's all she wrote. So Gabe Kapler got 4. Bob Melvin got 2. Bob Melvin never made the playoffs, and I don't even know if they had a winning record. If so, it was by the hair of their chinny chin chin. And they got out of here pretty quickly. And I don't know what the timeline for Tony Vitello is. And it all connects back to the decisions that the Giants are making with these moves and lack of moves, if you will. You look at the contracts that they've given out, and we've gone over them, all the big ones in the infield and decent, right? For Jung Hoo Lee, I wouldn't call it big, but that one in the outfield. And then you look at the pitching, obviously Logan Webb locked down, Robbie Ray, what is it? 1 more year for Robbie Ray and guys like that. And that's really where it kind of ends. You got one of the best catchers in baseball. That's going to change a little bit with ABS, but you have a decent team, but I don't know that there's an expectation to make the playoffs. I think that would be nice. And I'm not saying me. I would love to make the playoffs, but I don't know that the Giants have that expectation. And I do wonder, because you're bringing in somebody that's going to need those training wheels. I mean, think about it like this. Bob Melvin missed the playoffs twice, and they canned him. Now, would it be different with Tony Vitello because he doesn't have the level of experience of Bob Melvin? I would say so, but I don't know for how much longer. I mean, I think if the Giants don't make the playoffs in the first 2 years, there's an extra wild card spot now, right? And there's a good amount of money invested here. And I'm not saying they would only give him 2 years like Bob Melvin. I'm just saying that that third year would be very important. Very, very important, because we know what the Giants can do, right? You're bringing in Tony Vitello, and what they have done, you're bringing in Tony Vitello in the hopes to say, we can get to the next step with this guy. So if you look at how long it took him to turn around Tennessee and really other places that he's been, he is a quick learner, right? He is a quick study. I'll give him that. This is Major League Baseball, but he is a quick study. And the other part of that is Tony Vitello can be as good as he wants, right? You're managing a team that the back end of their bullpen are guys that are 36, 37 years old, and guys that have really bounced in and out of the league. What are you supposed to do with that, right? And how much of this, when the Giants start slumping, right? If they start slumping the way that they've slumped in the past, is that on Tony Vitello? I don't know. Was it on Bob Melvin? I don't actually know. But the staff that they're bringing in, I do believe supports Tony Vitello the way that Bob Melvin's staff maybe didn't support them from a building standpoint or a culture standpoint. I think that it is fair, if we're saying fair or foul, to have different expectations for Tony Vitello than you did for Bob Melvin early on. The only reason I think Bob Melvin got axed so quickly is simply because, hey, you've been doing this for a while. We feel like you have enough. And I don't even know that they wanted to. I think they felt a little bit of pressure, but you've been doing this for a while. We feel like we have enough to make the playoffs, and we're just not doing it. With Tony Vitello, same roster, right, or similar roster, but this is a guy that is still trying to find his way, and you reset expectations a little bit, because with Bob Melvin, I think the expectation was at a certain level of postseason and things like that. You reset the expectation. The Giants are smart because they reset expectation with the same roster, so they should be in a good position to exceed those expectations. We'll see. We'll talk about Vegas and the win-loss totals when we get closer to the season, because the moves aren't done yet, we don't think, or just around the league. What if the Diamondbacks go out and get somebody, or they trade Ketel Marte? So we'll wait on that for the Giants and others when those big names kind of get moved. But yeah, as far as the timeline is concerned, I think they give Tony Vitello 4 years, and I don't even think he needs to make the playoffs. There's also an optics thing to this. And unless they're just straight garbage, I do believe that the Giants want a level of stability, which is why they wouldn't just move on. And number one, talk about commitment, they cashed him out too. So they put a lot into this, and your return on investment can happen in a couple different ways. It's one thing if you're not getting to the playoffs and you're saying, we're paying you all this money. But the other thing is, if you're paying somebody all this money, you don't want to pull that too quick. I'm not even going to talk about buyouts and things like that. They're still paying Bob Melvin, but you don't want to pull out too quickly. And then you have a situation where, you use this commitment, you got to pay him. It looks bad. So I think the Giants are motivated financially, motivated culturally, motivated spiritually in a lot of ways to make sure that Tony Vitello gets a decent enough runway before they even think about anything else. So I think he's going to it would have to be 3 bad years. I just think they're in a position where they want to show that they were all in, especially because so many people were talking, what about this move? You can't just get out of it if it doesn't go well in the first 2 seasons. So if you're not a fan of the move, you probably don't want to hear this, but if you were a fan of the move, yeah, I think they're going to give him at least, and I know whatever his contract says, it doesn't matter, right? They make decisions based on when they want to make decisions, because I don't think the Giants want to be in a position where they're moving off of a guy in another short stint. Logan Webb has already seen 3 managers, and he hasn't even been in the league that long. So I think they want to try to change that narrative and keep this guy here for a decent amount of time. And if it doesn't work out, feel like, hey, we did give this a real go here and it just didn't work out. But I have a good feeling that it will from Tony Vitello's perspective. He cannot turn a bounce back arm into an ace, right? He cannot do that. He cannot turn a bounce back arm into a Cy Young Award winner. I think some of the other guys that they brought in, strength and conditioning and others, will help all these guys. But the reality is you're going to have to support him in that way too. And I think the Giants know that they're going to have to open their wallets again at some point. They're just waiting to make sure it is the right move. And that could be, when I say open their wallets, that could be via trade like the Devers thing. It doesn't have to be free agency traditionally. So a couple different ways to do that. Thank you for watching Locked On Giants. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at @_Styles Files. Styles with an I. Look, you still got time. If you're running tardy with a gift, or hey, so-and-so, your little sister didn't get you something. I know my little sister didn't get me anything. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. We will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.